Welcome back, golf fans. Chris here with the Bombs Fantasy Sports. Last week we went over DFS PGA sheet tutorial. We kind of ran you through the sheet and all the different sections you can use for research for each event. That went over very well. Got some feedback, so we're going to start doing some weekly preview videos. First up is the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am elite field. We got for the third straight year. It's going to be a signature event. So we do have the top of the top here in this field. I believe there's 9 of the top 10 in the data golf rankings, and we use those data golf rankings. Kind of came into play when Liv started losing some points for some of the top guys. Mainly, it was something that we looked at more for majors, but we've switched that over and we use that on the sheet each and every week. And you will find that on the DFS tutorial video over on our YouTube page. Without further ado, let's jump into the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am video here, previewing the event. Each week, we're going to kind of go over a little bit of the cheat sheet, how we use the research. We're going to look at weather. We're going to look at DFS plays, top bets. We're going to look at pick 6 plays, generally how I come up with my stats profile for the model for the cheat sheet each and every week. So with that, I talked about having a good field. We lead by Scotty Scheffler. Again, his price is way up there, the #1 player in the world. He's in an elite level all by himself right now. So we got that decision to make at 14,000. It has kind of paid off the last couple of weeks, last couple of tournaments that he has played, mainly because there's been a lot of good value, and we're going to talk about that as we move into the sheet here. First, what we want to do is kind of look at the course this week. So we are back to a multi-course rotation with Pebble Beach Golf Links as well as Spyglass Hill 2-course rotation. So if you're doing some event research, looking at kind of course history, last year, 2024 and 2021 all used the same 2-course setup with Spyglass Hill and Pebble Beach. The other years, 2023, 2022, 2020, and everything before that, they also included, it was a 3-course rotation using Monterey Peninsula. So you can kind of look into that. But for the core of my research, I'm kind of looking at the 25, 24, and 21 data on the cheat sheet here. I actually am going to go ahead and highlight that for everyone that is using the cheat sheet today. So you can kind of see that data on there. So the main course, what's going to happen here is it's obviously a no-cut event, but with the 2-course rotation, it is a Pro-Am for the first 2 days, Thursday and Friday. Half the field will play on Spyglass, half the field will play on Pebble. That'll switch on Friday. And then for the rest of the remainder, Saturday and Sunday, the final 2 rounds, it will just be Pebble Beach. So for the core of my stats model, almost 100%, I'm looking at just Pebble Beach. So we're going to start by breaking down that course. It is a par 72, shortest course on tour, 6,989 yards in the scorecard this week. So you can head over to the course or you can check it out. So the par 3s, pretty big variance in the par 3s. We've got a 106-yard par 3, we've got a 200-yard par 3, 195, 178. So kind of everything in between. There's 4 par 4s under 400, so that kind of helps contribute to that sub 7,000. One of the shorter par 72s, or the shortest par 72 on the regular rotation on the PGA Tour. There's 5 holes, 5 par 4 holes that are between 400 and 450 yards, and then 1 over 450 plus yards. So a couple things right off the bat here, looking at just breaking down Pebble Beach. Very short course, kind of takes driver out. Guys aren't going to be bombing it, so I'm not really looking at bombers whatsoever. I'm also not looking at long irons this week because there is a lot of shorter par 4s, 2 of the 3 par 5s. I mean, you're looking at a few long iron shots, but for the most part, we are seeing about a 10 to 12% increase in proximity bucket, 100 to 150 yards. So that's kind of what I'm looking at mostly when breaking down strokes gained approach this week, which, by the way, is going to be my #1 stat. Go over here and we're going to look at the model on the sheet. So I've got 20% of strokes gained approach. Because of the very small greens, both courses have small greens. I believe Spyglass is right around 5,000 square feet. That is about 1,000, 1,500 below tour average. And then you've got Pebble Beach, which is 3,500, which are the smallest greens on tour. So with those small greens, also going to be looking at strokes gained around the green and putting. So short game, very, very important here. strokes gained approach, very important. And like I said, breaking down those proximity buckets, we're looking at 100 to 150 yards. So I've got that in there. The rough is only around about 2.5 to 3 inches, so not very penal this week. So one thing I will look at when there is very non-penal rough is guys aren't too concerned about hitting the fairway, because they're going to have usually a pretty good lie out of the rough to be able to still hit greens in regulation. So that's where I look at good drive percentage, which kind of looks at driving accuracy, plus your greens in regulation when you don't hit the green, or when you don't hit the fairway rather. So that's a good stat to look at when the rough isn't as penal and guys are going to be still hitting a lot of greens in regulation there. For the most part, looking and comparing these two courses, Spyglass is 7,000 yards, so just over 7,000 at 7,032. Both are below average, sorry, above average in terms of scoring. Pebble Beach is about 0.2 strokes lower than the tour average course, whereas Spyglass is about 3/4 of a stroke easier than Pebble Beach. So if you're playing showdown, we're probably looking at building 4-2 or even 5-1 builds, geared towards the players who are on Spyglass. You're going to see those course designations added to the sheet later today as well, so you'll be able to check that out over here left of the player names. Driving accuracy is a little bit harder to hit the fairways at Spyglass, a little bit smaller fairway width, so take that into account. So the reason to be looking at good drive percentage a little bit. When it comes to greens and regulation percentage, it's actually been right around tour average, 65%, right around there overall. And looking at some Pebble Beach stats over the last few years, 2 years, as this has been a signature event with the no cut field, I've got broken down here on a tab 25, 24 Pebble stats. You can see last year was crazy with McIlroy hitting -21, but normally we're seeing about -19, -17. I think it's been -17 to -21 over the last, and I'll go back to 2016, so the last 10 events. Looking at the birdie averages, I got birdie better averages, which is just a combination of birdie and eagles, obviously. Birdie or better 13.1 field average in 2024, jumped all the way to 18.2 per golfer last year. So the conditions were really good. This year we are looking at this. Next, we'll jump over and we'll look at some weather. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're getting some rain starting later today, and looks like it is going to run into overnight on Wednesday. So we're going to get some soft conditions. The wind is up Tuesday, Wednesday during their practice rounds, but as they get into the event Thursday, Friday, the winds look to be pretty standard, pretty low. So it looks like we're going to have some scoring conditions, wet conditions. So those smaller greens should be a little bit softer the first couple of rounds. So we should see a lot of birdie opportunities. Probably going to see some low scores in that -17 to -21 range again, maybe even hit that -20 range like we did last year when McIlroy won the event. Sunday looks like we're going to get some wind, but we will update this as the rounds go on as we get into the weekend. So stay tuned to our Discord chat. If you're not in our Discord chat, make sure to head over. For a limited time right now, we've got a deal going on where you can get access to not only our PGA sheets, but our all sports package for just $5 for the first month. That's a $25 value and gives you access to over, I believe right now there's 10 different sports going where we've got spreadsheets that we're concentrating on daily fantasy sports and betting and props. So make sure to head over to www.patreon.com/Jagerbombs, grab that all sports package and use code Jaeger5. If you have any problems with that, make sure to just throw us a comment down below here. You can also hit us up on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. All right, so back to the sheet here. We looked at some of the stats from the last 2 years as this was a signature event. Obviously, you're going to need birdies. So when it comes down to my top stats, things that we're going to talk about here, that we're going to kind of narrow these players down, is birdie or better percentage, strokes gained approach, short game, and we're going to talk about those proximity buckets as we talk about strokes gained approach, par 4 and 5 scoring, maybe a little bit more on par 5 scoring. That's why I've got them kind of equal this week, just because there is, we've got par 72, so we've got 4 par 5s on each course. So let's start out by just sorting, and these stats are up to date for the 2026 season, and these ranks, the stats in green are updated. This is their 2026 stats for each player. the raw stats. The rankings that you see over here in the model, those are just within the field. So um, JT Poston, for instance, ninth in strokes gained approach. That's ninth in strokes gained approach, 2026 stats in this field, not overall in the PGA Tour. So just keep that in mind using that data. So yeah, right up here, number one, we've got Siwoo Kim 9,800. I mean, his price is getting up there, but it's been an incredible stretch in golf to start the year for him. He's finished 11th or better in 5 straight and second and third over his last 2 events. So things are looking up really good for him. So we'll be looking at getting a large piece of him in my player pool. I've got him in my bets again this week as well. Number two, we've got Justin Rose, followed by Russell Henley, Jason Day, Hideki Matsuyama, Victor Hovland, Corey Connors, Daniel Berger, JT Poston, and Straka as the top 10. Overall ball striking, you can see that right beside these guys. But what I want to look at here, and I'm going to just hide some cells so we can have them side by side, is that stroke gain approach, and then looking at those proximity buckets as well. So a few guys that stand out here, Russell Henley, 16th from 100 to 125, 5th from 125 to 150, and then even as that stretches out into the 150 to 175, he's right there again. So he's definitely going to be on my radar, going to be a core play for me in DFS. He's going to be a bet. We've actually seen his number get better. So you can see the open odds, and that is first thing Monday morning is what those odds represent. And then the Tuesday is an update. I'll update it again tomorrow. And then during the event, we've also got live odds here that factor into our showdown as our overall rankings here. As you can see, live strokes gain stats. We've got total birdie or better percentage, and then we've got live odds that factor into that model that we'll update as we get into. We use that for showdown for mostly round 2, 3, and 4. Myself personally, I like to sit out round 1 showdown. Even the pick 6 plays, props, and stuff like that. I really like to see how round 1 goes and get some data. And I just feel more and more comfortable as the tournament goes on, as we get a little bit more in tournament data to look at as well and factor into our models. But that's where you're going to find that information. So some other players that really stand out there, Jason Day, he is number one from 100 to 125. Now I know these are some small sample sizes for some of these guys. In some instances, as low as 4 rounds and up to, I believe there's 4 events, so we're looking at about 16 rounds. But that's still pretty good being number one there. Corey Connors is 22nd in proximity, 100 to 125, 7th overall in approach, second from that 125 and then 150. So Corey Connors is a great price at 7,000, maybe a nice value. Hasn't had the greatest success here at Pebble Beach, 65th, 31st, so he's only really made the cut 1 out of his last 4 tries. But as a GPP play, I think you can fit him into your player models. At 7,000, you're probably only looking at maybe a top 25 with a bunch of birdies, and he's going to be up there as well. So I don't think there's a whole lot of risk there, and I don't think he's going to be real high owned either. So some other guys that stand out in that approach when we're looking at that, we've got JT Poston and Straka, both top 20 here in proximity. We got Chris Gotterup, who is on an absolute heater right now. So definitely need to be considering him. Price is getting up there, but again, even with the signature event, him in that top tier 9,000 and up, I think makes sense for GPP. His number has dropped here as well. Same with Matt Fitzpatrick, coming off a 9th place finish. Gotterup's got 2 wins in his last 3 events on kind of different scoring atmosphere type courses as well, like the Sony Open, and then we got the WM Phoenix Open there as well. So he could be in the hunt for even more wins this season. And looking at the stats, he fits the model for this week. So definitely someone to consider in your player pools as well. Alex Noren is 18th overall in strokes gained approach, and then 19th and first from that 100 to 125 and 125 to 150. Maybe GPP play again in that Corey Connors range. And then, of course, we got Scotty Scheffler here. So his short proximity, any of his proximity buckets aren't that great, which is hilarious because he's just on fire with everything else. So his around the green game is birdie or better percentage, scrambling sand saves. Everywhere else, he's been just standing out. But in the stats model, for some reason, It just doesn't like him because of those proximity buckets. So I mean, take that with what you will. He's still ranked number one overall. He's still going to be, like I said, someone I'm going to be fitting into my player pools this week. All right, let's move on to the next stat here. I really want to look at short game. I think I've got that right here. So we're actually going to sort this a different way because I haven't fit it into the model quite yet. I've got them both separated at 10. What we want to look at is combined short game, which is just looking at strokes gained around the green and putting. And I'm kind of looking for guys who stand out in both. Either the small greens, you're going to be missing a few greens here or there, and you're going to need to save par and get up and down and scramble, or you're going to be hitting a lot of greens that need to putt. It may be a combination of both throughout the entire event. You know, one day you might be needing to scramble, the next day you might be needing to make those putts when your irons are on a little bit more. So I like to look at that short game as a combined one here. Um, and number one is Sahith Theegala, 7,300. He's going to be a core play for me this week. He's been excellent around the green and putting. We go over here and we look at that. He's sixth in around the green, third in strokes gained putting overall. He's also standing out looking at par five scoring. He's been doing really good. And then he's top 20 in birdie or better percentage as well. Other guys who stand out in that short game there's a lot of guys here ranked top 25 in both of those stats. Victor Hovland is one of just two with Sahith who are top 10 in both, which is nice to see. He's 9,900 this week. And in that top tier, I'm going to go back and just sort this. In that top tier from 9K and up, there's a lot of guys who are going to be popular, in my opinion. Siwoo Kim, I think even Scheffler. We're going to see Justin Rose coming off a win, Russell Henley, who I talked about. Those four, I think, are going to be probably your top four owned. Might even fit McIlroy in there to round out the top five. So I think Hovland's going to come in as a nice GPP play this week at a little bit lower owned. Um, Same with Matsuyama and Fleetwood. So Hovland, I think there's a chance that he may be in the lower end of that top tier ownership. Is kind of what I'm projecting here. And if that's the case, I absolutely love it because, like I said, his short game has been elite, top 10 in both of those categories. The proximity buckets, he's been a little bit better in terms of the longer those proximity buckets get. But this mid range here, even 125 all the way up to 200, is elite as well. So I like that from a strokes gained approach perspective. He's sixth in strokes gained approach overall in this field, which is awesome to see. Pretty solid across the par four and five. Nothing really stands out there. Top 25 in birdie or better percentage. Good from the sand. So he's someone that's going to be a nice GPP play for me. And over on my playbook here right now, I'm just showing the top three in each tier that I've got on here. Like I said, I've got Hovland and there's a GPP play. So you may just find him in my top five ranks there. The cores are members only, obviously, but over here on my player betting and props, I've got my bet card up here as it is updated as of now. That comes out and is updated Monday afternoon, and it coincides with my article over on Fantrax. So what you can do, head over to fantraxhq.com every week, and you'll find my attacking the green stats breakdown and best bets. I preview the course a little bit here, preview both courses this week, and then I go over three stats that are very important in my model each and every week, and then two players who stand out from a betting perspective. So I've got Russell Henley here, and something I've started doing here with these Scotty Scheffler, just this insane form that he's got going, is betting the non-Scotty market. So pretty much what you're doing is you're just betting on outrights, except for not including Scotty. So if Scheffler wins, Russell Henley finishes second, you would cash that. And then we've got top tens. So here's the short game guys that stood out to me. Theegala, we just talked about, and Hovland. So I've got Hovland as someone who I think can win. I'm probably going to bet him in both markets, so without Scotty and the regular one. But I've got plus 210, top 10. I like that a lot. Same with Theegala at plus 225. And then birdie or better percentage, we're going to jump in here as well. So again, head over to fantrax.com, fantraxhq.com, and look for under golf attacking the green preview each and every week. So yeah, that's where you're going to find on the bet card, which will always be here for members. I post it for free also on Twitter at under Jaeger _bombs9, as well as Cedarl Fantasy. Okay, so getting back to the stats here, just looking at that overall short game, other guys that really stand out to me also come with some excellent course history. Jason Day going to be a core play for me, 8,500. Love that price. He's off to he's coming off a so-so performance last week, but coming off a runner-up before that. We've got Scotty Scheffler at 14. A lot of these guys also have some top course history. Jason Day, top course history here. Scheffler's had some good course history. Michael Kim's got an 11th in 2023. Hovland, who I mentioned, Thigala. So as you can see, it does correlate quite well having that top short game. So I mean, definitely looking very strongly at that this week. We've got Steven Yeager in here, top 15 in both. Ryan Gerard is going to be a nice value play at 7,500 for me. Jake Knapp, his odds are dropping big time. Jacob Bridgman, not he's always average around the green, but his putting has been awesome this year, so may want to consider him at 6,900. To get Scotty Scheffler in this week, you're probably going to need to dip into that 6K range, probably with two players. And there are quite a few here that I do like, or at least into that low 7,500 and under. You're probably going to need three guys to make that happen. I'm actually going to go over just look at some of these contests this week. The $5 drive to the green is one I like to go in each and every week. So we are going to just jump in there and just see what a lineup build looks like with Scotty Scheffler. So after him, we got an average of 7,200. So yeah, we're going to need two players in the 60s to kind of make that work. And we're going to go back to the short game and have a guy who fits the model in terms of looking at a short game, and then one maybe that stands out in terms of approach. So I'm actually going to go over and sort the sheet now. We're going to go down into that 6K range and kind of build out a Scotty lineup, looking at those things that I just mentioned. So we got Jacob Bridgman, ball striking's been good, 21st in approach, second in overall putting, average good drive percentage, good in the proximity bucket. So he's a player that we could possibly add into a Scotty build. If we want to go quite a bit lower, Patrick Rogers stands out in the model, 34th overall. I also like Ryan Fox, he's 24th. Both of them have some pretty solid stats here. 24th in approach, 33rd for Rogers. Looking at the strokes getting around the green, 35th, 23rd, 41st, 14th. So that stands out. Ryan Fox does have that distance. So, I mean, looking at his good drive percentage isn't that great. So I think he's probably going to be dialing it back like pretty much everyone else, trying to hit as many fairways as possible, especially with the wet conditions. Because even with the shorter rough, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult, at least on the first day until it dries out some, to be able to hit those greens in regulation. But both these guys definitely stand out to me. We've got Rogers 1236, a little bit better than Fox here. And then we also look at birdie or better percentage. Both of them are up there. So let's just pick one of them for now. Let's go Rogers. Leaves us 7,500. So if you wanted to even include Fox and go more of a stars and scrubs, get three guys in the sixes here. That leaves you with an 8K average, which is giving you, Burns and up. You could even jump up to like Thornborns and up to a 9K guy if you like to follow up with Goddard and go one more lower, or just kind of sit in that 75 to 8 range. 75 to 85 range, I guess. Like you could go Jake Knapp, Sam Burns, or Jake Knapp and McIntyre. Still built. It's a pretty nice build. Obviously at 14K you need Scotty to win, but that's definitely one way that you can go about building. And pretty much anytime Scotty's in, and I'm doing multi entries into a contest, I'm at least building two Scotty lineups. If I'm building 10, I'm probably building three. 30% of my lineups are Scotty Stars and Scrubs lineups. I just like trying to find that value in the sub 7K range, guys that maybe 5% or less. Now, that may not happen as much as Scotty continues to be around that 14K. I'm interested to see what happens during the majors and the players, see how things go there in terms of his pricing and the gap between him and McIlroy. Even I know Rom's not going to be in that same price tier anymore, but interested to see where that goes in terms of the ownership we're going to see in that sub 7K range. So the final stat I want to look at here before we take off is the birdie or better percentage. And we're actually going to go look at the actual percentage here. It is absolutely incredible. Scotty sitting at 38%. Justin Rose, who's been on fire himself, is 5% lower. Like that gap is just absolutely ridiculous. for Scheffler, and just another reason added on to the Stars and Scrubs Scotty lineups I was talking about. So Justin Rose stands out here, Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley. Now, those top four guys, even the top five guys, you go look at looking at the event history, two top tens, third and 11th, 12th and 14th. Russell Henley had a top five last year. Fitzpatrick maybe hasn't, or McIntyre don't have it, but those top four guys all have some top finishes here. So definitely looking at that. Jason Day is just down here a little bit on that list. Pearson Coody, Ryan Gerard, another reason why I like him at 7,500. Coody's been red hot to start the year. He's got top 20s in four straight, including a runner-up finish. Maybe someone he hasn't been here yet, but 7,600, I'm willing to fit him into my GPP pool as well. We talked about Bridgman, talked about Jason Day. Jaeger stands out again. Cantley, I just haven't been able to get back on the Cantley train, so it's probably a fade for me at 8,900. Just doesn't really seem to show that upside, even though, again, here he is sitting 13th in birdie or better percentage in this field. I would just rather go to down to Michael Thorne Bjornsson, who's just trending in the right direction after a missed cut. He's gone 18th and third last week. He was dropping birdies like crazy as well. So I definitely like looking at that. So those are three of my, just to kind of recap here, strokes gained approach, and then breaking down that strokes gained approach. I like the proximity buckets from 100 to 150. I also like short game, a combination of around the green and putting. If you can get one guy that's elite in one, maybe average in the other, I'm fine with that. If you find guys that are top 30 in both, I'm really, really liking that in terms of adding those guys to my player pool as well. And then jumping over and looking at the birdie or better percentage. Those would be my top three stats for the week in my model. And then obviously I throw in these other ones. So we'll go back and we'll sort here. And again, if you've got any questions about the sheet that I haven't covered, go check out the PGA DFS tutorial video that I did last week. Just kind of, I go over things a little bit more. And if you guys still have more questions, make sure to hit me, throw some questions in the comments below. You can join our Discord. You can go into Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9 or at CDurrell Fantasy. Both those Twitter accounts. The other one is my new one just for my personal. And then Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports, I'm running that one as well for the business. So make sure that hit there or over in Discord. You can hit me up. I've been there all day, every day. So you can ask questions. And if you need into that Discord, like I said, we've got a special offer right now. For just $5, you're getting access to all of our sports package, regular $25 a month. You get it for $5 for the first month. You get all the cheat sheets, all the Discord channels, all the updated news, picks, cores, all the playbooks for all of our different ones. And coming up this weekend is huge as well. We've got the Daytona 500 on Sunday. So if you're liking the videos, I'm kind of been polling the Discord people in Discord to see if they want a preview video or a live video. But in the past, the live videos have been the cat's ass. That's where the people show up, start answering, to help answer questions better on race day, after the qualifying's in, after all the inspections are done. So that's probably what we're going to be doing is Sunday morning. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notifications when we get that live show set up for Sunday. And yeah, good luck this week at Pebble, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.